says, "Well, then what are we waiting for?" And she whispers in the ear of the man from House Cannith, who says, uh, "Yes, reasonable. One moment." He rushes over to a wall and lifts one of the sort of stones off of there and holds it up and sort of speaks into it quietly. And he says, "Within the moment, is there anywhere we can uh, rest a bit? My legs are tired. I'm not used to moving so quickly." And the general says, "Yeah, follow me." And she leads you into a more or less open chamber where there's a number of couches. It's meant for dignitaries and guests, but it's very severe and stark in its accoutrements. Like the one that you found yourself in before, Falafis, though on a lower story, this one stretches up 2 stories with some windows that are letting light in from above. But for the most part, it is just a bare room with simple couches for sitting in and some small tables for discussing in groups. Empty at the moment as the soldiers have gone out.
So, Falafis, which of these windows were you defenestrated through?
Can't remember, to be honest. I suppose this one, and pointing out the first one closest to me.
No, it's not the same room, but it's like that room. It's the window and was higher up on a different story.
You think the soldier that did it is okay?
Oh, right, I forgot about him. I totally forgot about him. Don't know.
Well,
Since they
guys.
are all... Yeah.
Well, guys, do we care about the lowers, or shall we just leave
What
them?
do you mean, do we care about the lowers? Think of all the loot we could get there.
All right, fair enough.
Lord Jerry says, "I mean, I at least care about my people that are down there spreading the gospel of Dern."
That's the spirit, Lord Jerry.
Hi.
Hello, Lady Melina. I've been here this whole time.
Oh.
That's not like you, Merlina. Usually you're the first to notice.
I got distracted. I've been holding too many noses in anticipation of the potion.
Oh, right.
Already, but their mouths are gagged, they can't breathe.
A little bit later, this almost spindly looking Warforged comes racing in. Where a lot of the Warforged, they even wear clothes and such. This one is not. Where some of them are thick and full of girth, this one is like barely there. Really skinny arms, legs, and even torso. The head is much like the other ones, though a little bit on the narrower side too. It races in through the door and immediately comes up to the man from House Cannith and says, "Ward to Cannith, I am here." Cannith says, "Right, well, come this way," and he, from a sort of a side pouch that he has, he pulls some papers forward. He shuffles through them and puts one down and says, "Right, let's not look too closely at this times, being what they are, of course, but what shall we say to those of House Dorasco to convince them to give us the potions we need here?"
Well, you could tell them that the fate of the kingdom depends on it, or the place, the town.
In general, the words "or else" tagged along to the end of the sentence.
Or else.
Yes, I mean, we should make it sound at least a little bit like Lady de Dorasco. She is, of course, gentle as the summer breeze, as they say poetically.
Hi, Ori.
Hi, darling. Jen. But he starts to dictate and basically says, my darling servants. I am in desperate need of, and he counts around, just in case we spill, 10 potions of greatest restoration, you'll find the money in my coffers. No, that doesn't. Well, all right. Send them to House Denieth, care of Lord Decaneth, as soon as you possibly can.
Oh my goodness.
Ta-ta, Lady Juraska. And the Warforged is scribbling this all down, and what's coming out of them is this flowing script with little like hearts for the eyes and like the letters. And you see like
It's a specialized Warforged.
You see the Baroness looking over and sort of shaking her head. And Lord Jerry, as the Decaneth is doing his thing, Lord Jerry is like smirking and laughing under his breath. Well, he's not hiding it. At one stage, especially when he signs it, ta-ta, he laughs out loud.
Lord Jerry, hi.
Lady Melina, are you sure you're feeling well? Fair enough.
Used up a lot of spell slots.
Whee! All whippy from the sorcery points. So, he has the Warforged folded up and handed to him, and he holds it up to the Warforged again and says, "You should take this to House Rasco, hand it to the highest ranking official there that you can." And the Warforged says, "Yes, I'll do that right away." And he sort of runs out the door. So we've set that in motion.
Thank you. Very well done.
Now,
I doubt you'll regret it.
well, how are we going to defend our city?
Well, you mean
Best
you
bet
have
is
no
taking out
defense?
their leader.
As you say that, the general says, "You mean this Dern?"
Yes,
Indeed.
the general, I have a question for you. Did you ever do any kind of experiments to see what kind of influence mind flayers can have on the Warforged? Are the Warforged immune to mind flayers?
Or were there cases where they were either abducted or were mind controlled?
Yeah.
I do not know that we've ever investigated that in particular. We have sent Warforged to collect dragon shards. But, well, in my own recent memory, it has never come to a conflict or control. The agreement between us and the Underdark always held.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict would have led to actual attacks, and that hasn't happened in many hundreds and hundreds of years beyond my count and reckoning.
May I be so bold as to ask, do you not have a mind flare in your possession between the houses of Denief and Cannith? Because that's something that we could verify right now, and if we discover that the Warforged are immune, that's a big help in fighting Dern.
I whispered through walkie-talkie, Melina, are you trying to get your pet again?
Why not?
At this, you spot a glance between the general and the I need to find a better term for this guy than the leader of House Cannith, but
The boss.
Decaneth for now. He hasn't introduced himself, or you guys haven't like talked to him in more details yet. But yeah, the
Primarch.
what?
The Primarch of House Kenneth.
Oh no, I have it written down already what he is, but you guys haven't acted that out, so I have to keep dancing around it.
We will never know.
Never know, because you'll never ask after I pointed it out. Okay, so anyway, you see a glance between them, and the general says sort of slowly, "We do indeed have a recently acquired mind flare. One of our troops yesterday brought them to us, and, well, suffice to say, yes, there is one in our custody." Why do you ask?
Because you could see if the mind flayers can influence the Warforged, or if the Warforged can resist the influence of the mind flayers. Because if we're
But by
fighting,
the way, when you were still under the Mind Flayer influence yourself, what were you gonna do with the Mind Flayer that was brought to you? Like, what was your thought process back then, if you don't
Yeah.
mind us asking?
good question, Moish. I say quietly over the walkie-talkie.
Dirk Kenneth speaks up and says, "Well, really, it is a bit fuzzy, and my own motives were not entirely clear to me. I do recall when we heard that there had been one found amidst death and chaos, that the urge was one of protection, but at the same time walking a line of not being too overt."
Protection of whom? The mind
The
flayer?
Mind Flayer. Yeah.
So, is he kept in custody, as in, is he a prisoner, or rather you're just taking care of him?
Well, to keep pretenses, he was placed within a cell, but not bound, wounds addressed. In general, he was quite catatonic throughout, not as mind flayers often are, vicious and well, cagey, if one may be so honest.
What made you bring him?
His state, I
You
presume.
already said the impulse to protect him, even if it
Yeah,
was
but
supposed
this
to be
one,
kept.
like precisely this one, why?
Because it's a Mind Flayer.
And they do have this special
Like,
trait
remember a
with them.
whole. This is like the one you found, right? Amid a bunch of dead ones.
Right. Sindrine and Philopus found this one. Some were dead, some had fled, some had just catatonic. This is one of the catatonic ones that the Denieth soldiers had found down below.
So, since we are kind of in a hurry here, can we try to do that sort of experiment with him and Warforged in order to make sure whether or not they can be controlled by mind flayers?
Guys, I forgot what the experiment was, I'll be honest. I mean, I know what we want to find out, but how?
Because that's all connected to that device that's capable of creating Warforged, right?
Oh, that's a thing, right? I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's a thing also. So I think.
So we tried to turn the Mind Flayer into Warforged and see what happens.
Yes, that was the initial thought. Okay, so now taking the conversation back on track, can we borrow your Mind Flayer for
For probably ever.
Were you saying any of that part about the machine out loud?
Oh boy.
No, of course not. That was just meta talking, just remembering what the purpose was.
That's actually a good point. Do we bring up the machine with the guy now that he's free of the influence?
Do we have enough spell slots left?
By the way, excuse me, then I'm just going for it. So it just so happens we not became aware of the method by which Warforged are made, and we can use that for the experiment to find out if the Warforged are influenced by the Mind Flayers, or potentially could be.
Without missing a beat, the Decaneth says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that machine has been decommissioned
That's the thing.
25 years at least."
No, it's still in use.
How do you think we get the knowledge of this particular knowledge? You think someone told us?
Yeah.
Well, I'd assume that you
No, that's not the case.
In place, so you're obviously not from around here. But no, I'm. Trust me, I was essential in the initial creation of the Warforged in recent years, and our house, Kenneth, has been quite forthright in and I'm losing words here, but we have absolutely kept to our pledge to create no new Warforged since the terms of the treaty that brought about the end of the war.
All right, we believe you, but that does not change the fact that we know where one of these machines is, and we can use it for the experiment that will determine whether the Warforged can be controlled by the Mind
We used to
Flayers.
have plans for those machines, right?
The schemas.
Schemes, yes. Do
So
we
it's
still
not
have it? I can't
impossible that
remember.
someone rebuilt one of them as well.
The schema. I mean, it's even as he's blustering as you bring up these things, Denieth in particular is just staring daggers at him. And
all right, I'll be the one. So who are you, mister?
In a timely manner.
very
I'm obviously not from around.
Why shall elaborate?
Considering my looks.
He means your
So
title.
I'm-
How should we address you? It's pretty awkward so far.
And there's a moment, but Denieth, in the meantime, as you're talking and he's blustering, and he's watching her directly, but she's now moving around behind the group and over towards one of her sort of attendants, who she whispers over, and he is growing increasingly red-faced as he talks. He says, yes, introductions. I am Jareth Decaneth. I am the Lord Tinker of House Cannith. And, well, we were speaking of the machines and schemas, of course, but as I said quite clearly, I've the schema was lost. It does not exist anymore.
Okay,
Sure.
can I
Still
see
do.
if he's like bullshitting?
Insight check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, 13 plus 1, 14.
I'll do myself one too. Oh, 24.
Okay. So, Philopus, and you can probably whisper a short version of this, but he looks 100% like Tom Longshanks from Tales in the Feywild, caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. He's not even particularly good at the subterfuge of denying what's going on.
Yeah, and like, okay, Lord Tinker, look here, we didn't really care so much if you just go along with us now. Just stop. No one is buying it.
You have to see that a lot of people did a lot of things that they're surprised by now, and we're all kind of just laying our cards on the table. I'm sure whatever you did, it's time to just fess up to it and do the right thing. Whatever you know.
House Denieth, the general, approaches and says, I don't think the rest of you realize the seriousness that this imparts. If Cannith has access to a machine that makes the Warforged, then the treaty we have made has been broken.
Look, we realize the severity. It's just that the city is under attack. So we have priorities here, man. I mean, lady.
Yeah, this is not the time to be diplomatic or reproachful. This is the time to take the right action.
Yeah, let's act and then we talk.
Yeah.
You are wise to say so, but let us not forget that this city and indeed the land itself are maintained by the ruling houses, those with dragon marks. We warred for decades until a great catastrophe was unleashed upon the land. And as part of stopping that from falling into further violence, we created a pact by which we were all bound. Madness must have been within us even then. I do not disagree. For some reason, Dern has chosen now to attack. You're not wrong. We will defend our city. But if the leader of House Cannith here has chosen to disregard the pact, then he needs to be taken into custody and prevented from working any further mischief.
I'm sure you'll get right on that.
Is raising his hands and moving backwards even as this is happening. But there's already some guards entering from a back chamber, sort of coming in towards him.
All right, Master Tinkerer. So let's be straight. You will face proper judgment soon, but you most likely still know some stuff that are helpful to us, which probably will make your life a bit easier in the future. So
more importantly, if you help us help the city, they're probably going to be a bit more lenient on you. Just saying.
They'll commute your sentence.
Yeah, instead of spending 30 years in jail, you probably will just be sentenced to death straight away. So, well, a win-win for you.
Okay, make Aka, are you even there, or are you playing video games? Sitting on the
She looks like she's issuing Order 66.
I can actually see her because she's on the other side of my screen. She decided to sit on that side of the table.
Well,
over. All right. Anyway, make a persuasion check.
Well, I think Falafa should make an intimidation check, honestly.
Sure. Yeah, intimidation's okay too.
26.
Okay. Anyone else? Feel free.
Yeah, I rolled a 2.
So which one? Intimidation or?
But you know what? I'm gonna re-roll. Where's my features and traits? There.
I would prefer to do the persuasion since I have a better skill check.
Yeah, 8 plus 10, 18.
And I still stick to persuasion since I try to pursue to choose wisely.
Okay, but sure.
30.
30.
Wow.
Okay. He stares at each of you in turn and eventually his hands and even his head lower and he says, yes, well, obviously I will do all I can to help our city. All right. Yes, there is a machine. We have, obviously we destroyed the original one, and we have not, I promise, been making new Warforged, but having it and experimentations are always what we are interested in House Cannith. It was unavoidable, and when we found one in nearly intact and a schema as well, well, it was too great an opportunity to pass up. You must understand. Mm-hmm. The general says, "Where is this machine?" He says, well, "It's down foundry level. It's near the base."
Who did you experiment with?
Wait, does that mean it's in the lowers? That means we're gonna have to fight our way through there anyway.
It's most certainly in the lowers. You found it when you were already on an assignment in lowers to investigate the murder, and then there was a hole that descended down into this sort of gas boiler type level within the city and lava flowing and things like that. So really base of the city. At this stage, the Warforged comes running back in, carrying a sort of box, a crate of sorts, and he runs over to the
Merlina, right?
Sorry?
To Merlina, right?
No, he runs over to the
No, these are the potions. This isn't the mind flare philosophy.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
To Kenneth and boss, I got these for you, and he puts them down. And Kenneth makes no move towards the box, instead staring at you and the general.
I've been holding the noses for a while now. Go first.
Okay.
Berlina, they're blue.
All of them generally resist, but the half-orc from House Thrashk also begins helping administer them to the different house leaders. One by one, starting with the large orc, the albino, they are forced to take this glimmering, sort of slow-moving potion. It's pinkish in quality and has some sparkles. It looks like those unicorn, I don't know, vomit things that they sell at shops sometimes.
Looks tasty. Do you have any spare ones?
Vomit.
I don't know. It's pink and sparkly and it moves slowly. It's like this slimy substance, but it's forced into the orc's mouth first. He struggles greatly, but between everyone that's there, he eventually swallows it down. And the other ones as well are the same. The roguish elf from House Tharani, the orc is from Badalis, the gnome from House Civis, the goblin from Orion is missing, but the dwarf from Kundarak, the woman from Durasco, the halfling from Galanda, and the wizard from House Lyrander. They're all, who stabilized, by the way, and is conscious but really injured, and no one has healed him yet. They all take the potion, and one after the other, their struggles cease, and that same light bursts from within. It doesn't have a greenish tinge. If anything, it's more pinkish, but it is similar to Akko's healing, but in potion form. It comes forward and restores them as well. The first thing that the woman from Durasco says when her mind clears, and she says is, "Well, I'll be needing quite a number of platinum to replace those. That took us a long time to prepare all those. I think I only had 12 remaining, actually, but I am grateful to you all." She is bubbly and joyful despite the surroundings. The orc as well takes the time to say, I'm really sorry that I tried to attack you all. You as in particular, little one, talking to Akko.
I thought you were talking to Mosh.
No, well.
Yeah, the Mosh still nursing the wound because he isn't fully healed. Shooting him dirty looks.
He says, I mean, you are obviously a talented rogue of sorts. I don't have any particular qualms with a nice spar. I hope you weren't too badly hurt, though. The elf keeps silent, looks very distant. The rest of them as well kind of descend into talking in smaller groups. But at that stage, the leader from Deniath, or the general again, says, right, we're going to have to make some organizations. This fine bunch of adventurers that has helped us, they are going to proceed with some other sort of plan, or at least gather information.
I look around for this fine group of adventurers.
Kundarashta says, it is my plan to go with them. Ori? It is my plan to go with them. The House Tarashk, well, if you can spare one of those potions, we will clear Darek or Magrum and wait until another day to clear the rest. And she looks at the one from House Tarasco and says, well, Aro, you will be reimbursed from our side for sure. But in the meantime, I would like to come with you to discover the secrets behind this, but also because I think there is more going on here, and that perhaps now is the time to strike at the heart of the leader of the Underdark.
Yes. Let's do this. So let's come up with a plan. You guys need our help to get the Mind Flayer over, or shall we just meet up down there? Do you know where you're going?
Well, even as you're speaking, there's a soldier that is bringing in a sort of a hooded figure that they're sort of walking along into the room.
Not just free.
They're holding his arms.
Okay.
And you can see that there are these sort of they're
Manacles.
no, they're not manacles. They're more like wiry thread that's been wrapped around the hands.
Okay.
It seems like flimsy, but they've wrapped it around there. And they bring him in, or they bring it in, and the general says, "What do you wish to do?"
Guys,
Right.
put on your helmets.
Yeah, put on the tinfoil hats, and just in case, that's the answer if they question it. We need to take him to the machine for creating Warforged.
Yeah.
We kind of remember where it is, but it's in the lowers. We're gonna have to fight our way through there.
Dekanath speaks up and says, there is at least a fast way to get there.
There is?
Oh.
Of course there is. You're not going to spend hours and hours traipsing down into lowers and finding their way. We often need to do maintenance on the boiler rooms and things of that sort, so House Canath has its ways.
Well, we'll follow you then.
Oh, all right. Denieth says, I need to remain here. Vidalis, I think, will stay alongside of me. We're going to organize the forces and resistance from within our houses. We'll use the phones as much as we can to help organize and keep things afloat. Who else will stay with me? And so Vidalis stays. Thorani says that he'll stay as well, the roguish elf. Kundarak says, well, yeah, you'll be needing some wards of protection at the very least. I'll see what I can arrange for you. And he stays as well. The Baroness also offers to stay and help organize. So in the end, you end up leaving with just House Canath, House Tharashk, and Lord Jerry says he'll accompany you at least part of the way because he needs to check on some things down below.
Okay.
Okay, so the Dekanath leads you outside where the Warforged he called is still waiting as well. And together you leave House Denieth and go over into the forest that is House Canath's sort of main entrance. He doesn't take you directly to the doors, instead almost veering off further to the right. Again, even as you move off of the path, that illusion of this house being a sort of cottage in the woods fades as you begin to see the real length of that initial building. And some of the other outbuildings behind become more visible as well. There is a large oak tree that is also blocking the way, and he leads you right up to it and circles around the back, pulling on a branch which bends abnormally far down and appears to be a lever of sorts, at which stage the inner part of the trunk actually recedes and there is a staircase leading downwards inward, in and underground.
That's pretty cool.
He says, yeah, he laughs and then says, you know, when I was growing up, this was one of my primary places of playing. It surprised me for decades that no one found it. But secrets upon secrets. Our house has been here for thousands of years, so they say, or at least hundreds. So, well, come on, let's go in. And he already leads the way down the staircase. As you go, it's not dark. What initially appeared to be dark, at least, begins to light up with these little glowing orbs like you've seen throughout the rest of the city. So the way downwards is quite well lit. It descends straight for a while and then branches. It doesn't curve. It just goes straight down, turns, and then returns back the way it came. It does this maybe 4 times to where you feel you're maybe 3 stories or 4 stories downwards, at which stage it opens into a large hallway filled with different doorways and branching offs. He takes you down one, you turn, he takes you down another, a third one. There's all these branchings off. The atmosphere here is one of almost dormitories, which is to say there's a uniformity, but there's some things that have been added on later. There's lots of rooms, and you do see through some of them, there's people inside that are talking and resting. The rooms themselves are not particularly large. There's no windows, but the lighting can change drastically depending on which room you're passing by. Some are lit by what seems like torches, though there's no smoke. Others seem like daylight. There's even some that have placed some sort of lights against the walls to look like windows, though you're deep underground.
Is this your secret castle or something?
Well,
Do you actually live here?
I mean, of course we do. Our house makes up a 13th of the city's population. Obviously.
How much?
Well, 1/13 at least.
Okay.
I mean we keep balanced. Everyone can find a place and a purpose, and most of the houses have several stories within uppers of places for trainees and those that are. I mean, this city is filled with people.
Fair enough.
Tharask says, I mean, you only saw a small portion of ours, but our house as well descends many stories within. We have our secrets too, as I think that you have seen some of.
And aren't you afraid of coming so close to the Underdark, all of these stories within, into the earth?
They both chuckle, and you're reminded, though, that you're nowhere close to the Underdark. So the heights is the equivalent of 55 stories in the air at its, like, sort of
Skyscraper.
More than a skyscraper. It's like the lower is Manhattan, like city level, like street level, right?
Yeah.
That already goes up 20, 30 stories to Midway. And then Midway as well goes 20, 30 stories up to the heights.
Okay.
Some of those buildings go up, like the Madani Tower, but other ones obviously go down as well. He says, but that's not where we're headed deeper in. But you'll see. He takes you over to the end of one hallway and opens a door, which opens onto open air. And he says, you'll like this. And he sort of just...
Akko, you like this.
He just sort of just hops out and disappears from sight. The Warforged follows.
I knew I couldn't be the only one.
The Warforged follows soon after. But Kundurashta sort of like looks at you guys and is like, and proceeds to look out. And what you see as you do is this deep, well enclosed, but nonetheless slide that is now taking the leader of House to Kenneth, just coasting and coasting downwards along the outer wall of the upper city.
It won't be so fun on the way back up.
He's literally, as he goes, going, whoa! And the Warforged behind him goes, whoa!
Geronimo!
Kundurashta says, are we doing this thing?
Let's go for it.
Moisha's already doing this thing.
Yeah, Moisha and Akko are already hopping onto the slide.
Wait for me!
Eventually, all of you hop onto the slide and begin just going at a... You gather speed pretty quickly. It's funny as well. Your clothing shouldn't necessarily, but there are these little puffs of air that keep sort of pushing you a little bit off of the metal itself, so you never quite gain sticking traction. You're just kept a little bit aloft and moving down, and you accelerate as you go as well. So by the time 30, 40 seconds have elapsed, you are moving really crazy fast and descending also rapidly in towards Midway. At a certain stage, you actually hit into the buildings and keep going. Darkness and these rushing lights around you as you just descend and descend, and you start to curve gently around as you're now looping through the city itself. Eventually, it sort of continues to coast and coast downwards. You see now finally as you're moving fast, but there are points at which the darkness just is all around you, and a light approaches slowly, and as you pass it, it is a very large light, and there are these sort of off ramps almost in the slide that you could push yourself over onto and then descend into like what looks like sand to potentially slow you down, but you don't see him at any of these, so you just keep going.
I feel really out of control here.
And you do. There is a moment after, I mean, it doesn't take that long, but you've been in darkness for a few minutes at the very least. And then you sense open air all around you as you enter a large space of some sort. There is a glow from up ahead, and then the slide disappears from beneath you and you're in free fall.
Oh God, no.
There's a moment of panic that hits all of you, but even before you can begin to cast a spell to sort of catch yourself or do feather fall or anything, even in that moment, you plunge into this. It's liquid. It's gelatin almost, and that is enough to sort of cushion your fall and slow you to a decent amount.
Did I mention that during the slide I tried to do it head down in order to make it faster?
Yeah, we didn't follow proper procedure and like wait 5 seconds before going, all of us, so we just end up in a big pile in this like sludge.
So
go Power Rangers.
as you get past, so you keep moving through the sludge and it is slowing you down, and then it's not anymore necessarily sludgy. It's more like little balls of soft material, almost like
Jelly.
egg sack kind of things, and then your feet, and then you slowly sort of just slurp out into open air, and there's a 2-foot drop before you hit the ground. So Falafis, what you see as well is just everyone else is coming out very slowly, but you're kind of head first going through this stuff, and there's that moment where you're dangling above the ground and sort of putting your arms out, but the Warforged is there to sort of take your hand and help you down, and you're standing in a space underneath the ceiling of essentially somehow suspended little greenish blue orb ball egg things. Nothing has like gotten you wet. Even the gelatin didn't stick to your clothes. I mean, there's a few flecks of stuff which you can brush off.
How did it taste? Because obviously I did taste.
You know, it would be more in character for Moist to ask this, but okay, I'll let it slide.
I spent some time with you, so you know.
Probably better than the worms that Moist fed him the other day.
It did. No, it tasted.
One day I'm out and I'm eating worms.
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
It tasted a bit like pine needles. It had this sort of bordering on antiseptic air about it as well, but
oh no, Fluffus is drunk now.
Yeah.
When they get desperate in the city, this is where they come.
The Decaneth, the Lord Tinker, is standing there and says, "I've always found that completely exhilarating." He's sort of bouncing, and his gray hair is flinging out in all directions.
We're gonna have to do that again.
Yes, well, I'm sure you can imagine the way up isn't necessarily as fun, but we do have our own ways to return quickly, although I usually just take an airship these days.
I might enjoy this.
That's right. You had the mind flayer with you. There's no response I mean, he's still in the hood.
Okay.
Well, if this didn't awaken him, nothing will.
Not that he's not awake necessarily. And Kuntarashta says,
He's dead inside.
Rekindle his conscience.
he is, she's been carrying him in particular, keeping a hand on him, along with Sindrine. And she says, during the slide, he made no special movements, not to defend himself or catch himself in the open air. I flung my arms outwards, as I think many of you did, but he did not.
Yeah,
He's
he's just
retreated.
seems to be gone.
Decana says, so we should continue to move on. We're actually foundry level now. We've gone even deeper than lowers, so it's not far. He leads you down, and the corridor is here. So the ceiling above you has those things suspended, but the ground around you is that same sort of well-tiled designs that you remember seeing from when you were in this part of the town before. He says, this used to be sealed off, which is to say there was a cave-in, and you can see parts where the tiles have not been replaced, where the walls had collapsed or something. We had always had ways to come down here, and we found the slide and the catchers particularly fun, but useful as well for descending quickly when there was an emergency. If you go the other direction, you can get to the boiler rooms and the things that power the elemental lifts beyond their just simple magic, that which helps run hot water throughout the city, and these sorts of things that bring us joy and civilization. But this way was always blocked off until, about 45 years ago, I had it removed. And, well, we found this machine. About 6 years of searching later, I found the schema.
Where?
The schema itself.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in House Civis's libraries. They didn't know what they had, and so I borrowed it for my own purposes.
How unusual.
Well, in the interests of experimentation and fabrication and moving forward with the city, this was a fascinating thing to find. In the end, well, it worked.
No, we believe you there.
And he sort of closes in on himself as he's walking you through, and the hallway is, again, it's a different design than the rest of the city above. This is something that's a lot older and more precise in construction as well. The lighting here is also different than above. It's a different type of light. It's set into these longer strips along the ceiling as opposed to these orbs that they have up above. But he's leading you through some hallways as well. And even as you move a little bit further in, you can see through a set of windows that overlook you're nearby that large, almost cauldron-like chamber that has the machine in it. But as he's taking you through there, he, very in a somber mood, says, I really didn't understand what the machine truly did for many, many years. It was... I didn't bother to look further into it. The joy of creation, of taking construction and imbuing it with life and consciousness, was incredible and gratifying, and some of my best friends in the world are warforged. I've told no one of what it does. I know that I should be I don't think even the assurances and my help that I can give now will be worth saving and sparing me.
Look, if you're honest about not knowing, then it's still a travesty what's happening, but it's a much less severe crime in your.
Oh, but don't mistake me. I did know eventually, and I continued regardless and hid it from those that might have found it out.
Why did you do that? Mind flare influence?
No,
Just fear of authority?
no.
Love of science?
The greed of a creator.
Okay.
I also, and he looking at the Warforged, even as is said, I do fear what would happen were word of that to get out.
Okay. Fear of repercussions.
Amongst other things. But really, no, that's been more recent. In the initial rush of it and my decision to keep it hidden, that was pure hubris. Pride in my own actions in creating a new species.
Okay, what did you discover? Is there anything
He is
like?
referring to the fact that it requires souls of the living.
Yeah, I know, but having the time and resources to test it, I'm sure you've gathered some knowledge that we are not yet in possession. Like maybe it's revertible, or I don't know.
He taps the Warforged on the shoulder and whispers something to him, and that one runs off ahead, presumably you're not sure. But he says, I don't really want him to know. He's a good lad. Kundarashta, you probably don't know the full extent of this. What the machine does is it pulls souls and places them from above and places them into the Warforged, which is to say, living beings in a cone above this machine will have their souls extracted and placed into the Warforged. We ran very few. Technically, we could make as many as we wished in a day had we the bodies, but I kept it specifically to 1 or 2 per week, saying that was the most the machine could handle. It's not the case. I just did not wish to arouse suspicion. Kundarashta is stony-faced, but you see a sort of twitching in her cheek, and she distinctly is holding herself in check.
Do they retain their original characteristics? Like if you pull out a soul out of someone who is capable of performing magic, does it have any influence later on the Warforged, or are they all like new creations and it's just a matter of elements that are needed, equivalent exchange of what you may call?
It's interesting you should ask. Yes, there are aspects that are retained, indeed. The capacity for speech, the even accent seems to be maintained. I was never so bold as to truly experiment. I think there was one time where I took, I obtained a criminal.
Obtained a criminal.
Yes.
No questions. Just continue.
Regardless, someone that was already incarcerated, and we broke him free and placed him a little bit above. I'd spoken to this man on a previous occasion. He had a harsh guttural accent. He was vicious and vile. He had no magical abilities, but was physically fit and put together. The Warforged that was created from his soul retained his voice, retained his almost movements as well. The way that he held himself by rolling from the balls of his feet, the sneakiness with which he was able to move. Different body, no memories, none that we could even jog by exposing him to people he had met in his previous life, victims, places he had committed his crimes. None of this triggered any sort of memory or connection, but he spoke in as similar a fashion as his new vocal cords would allow him to.
What about the crave for violence?
Did not transfer across, and many of the proclivities do not seem to transfer across. I've never tested with a magic user for sure, but looking through records, when seeing that some mage has passed away in a particular week when we had created a Warforged, potentially that being that new Warforged, I believe there is also a connection there. It is difficult to
So you
be
have
certain.
had Warforged with magic powers.
Yes, Warforged are sentient beings like many else, and as with all of the other races, they can learn magic. Many have an aptitude for it.
Makes sense.
Kundarashta, at this stage, still speaking, says, I'm not sure the rest of you realize just how many Warforged there are that have been created.
We realize.
Tens of thousands.
Have you tried using Warforged to create Warforged?
Yes, it had no effect. I don't know why that would be.
So the original kept his form and soul intact?
Well, not form necessarily. We had to create the physical construct, but the transfer did not happen. During the war itself, there were many times where Warforged was on the brink of death and very injured, and we would take them to the machine to experiment. But it did not transfer in that way.
Okay.
By this stage, you've rounded the corner and have come to a staircase that now opens into this large room and into the floor where the machine actually is.
All right, so can we get the Mind Flayer onto the machine? No, wait. No, we need a Warforged, don't we? Because you put the Warforged on the machine, right? And you put the Mind Flayer above it. Okay.
Why did we want to do it?
To see if we can convert the Mind Flayers into Warforged and beat Dirk. Dirk. We might as well beat him too. We like beating people.
Oh boy.
We're good at it.
Yeah.
Kundarashta says, do not try and tell us that you do not have a few extra bodies around for this purpose.
Who is she talking to?
To Decaneth.
Okay.
Oh, I thought she was talking to Marlene. I was like, yeah, that's good judgment.
Well, we do have one body in bag, right? Technically, it's correct.
Technically. But Decaneth says, yes, when we had to stop production as part of the treaty, yes, there were still some blanks, if you will. They're nearby. We have some available.
Let's get those. I mean, this one. I hope.
All right. And he points to Valadrin and says, "Come, help me with this." And they go over to a corner of the room where he presses a little plate on the wall, and a whole portion of the wall sort of slides up and over to reveal, almost like, I don't know the description for that, but like they're dangling on this rotating platform, and he presses a button and it sort of shifts around until One comes up in front and he says, "Do you think this one is appropriate?" And it's smaller in size. It looks like, he says, it's made for detail work, not fighting. We might not want something that's too aggressive.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good thinking. I do wonder though, like you have in this place, you have people that are dying, you have people that are in a lot of pain. Couldn't you just have used them for the experiments? Why pull random souls from above?
There's protocol.
Protocol?
Well, which is to say, by the time I had made the connection, it was
It wasn't your call.
It was years later.
Oh, I see.
The machine worked, which was joyous, and these beings were coming in sentient and
And you never realize that there is a pile of bodies just above.
My neighbors keep dying. I don't know what's going on.
above us now are there's thousands of people.
Yeah.
There's multiple layers of the city. We're not so outward from the edge. We're below lowers and middles, and there's many souls to draw within it. The connection was not made, and I didn't bother to look into the details of the scheme either.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think you're bluffing. That's mainly because you're storing a machine that's super sophisticated and does this magical kind of thing. In this area, I'm pretty sure you would scan it in case of any, I don't know, stuff happening around, could do something that would point to your location.
I
I'm pretty
think
sure
it's
you
a
were
case
observing
of
it.
him,
Yeah.
Philopus, I think it's a case of him trying to be willfully ignorant because he just enjoyed creating the Warforged too much.
Very could be. We should create one out of him just to make sure it works.
Huh. Well,
Believe me, as my time as I've aged, it's not. I have thought that it might be something I should do to myself. Not necessarily a punishment. These bodies are strong.
Immortality is what you're dreaming of. Moorish competition. They're trying to...
I mean, I literally talked about this not a year ago, a month ago, in game time, about how undead were basically just
5
robots.
days ago. Well, it would be immortality if the transfer would continue on through multiple lines.
Yeah, I get
And
you.
Warforged do not live forever. They can be destroyed and killed by fighting, like any other means. We've certainly lost a number of them that way. Old age, we do not know. It's only been a few handful of decades, so it has to be seen. They do not deteriorate, but that does not mean they will not cease to be at a certain stage. But it would be a prolongment. I'm not sure. So between you helping him, you get the smaller body Warforged, who's still at least Merlina sized, not like a
What are you
child
trying to
size.
say?
No, adult humanoid sized, and place it into the machine itself. He fiddles with it as well, and it sort of begins to load up. He says, so what are we doing? Placing the...
Yeah, let's put the Warforged on the table and let's go ahead and prop the Mind Flayer up over the machine.
Don't
All
look
right.
at me.
There's specifically a chamber above, well, a room above that we have set. It should be easy to, and he sort of gives directions to Kundurashta, who takes the Mind Flayer sort of out and up the stairs, and you hear from above these sort of tappings as well. And he says, that's our signal. We're ready now. Shall I pull the switch?
No,
Go.
Oh, well, Yes, be my guest. And he shows you a little button. He says, just press your hand there.
Smash the red button.
Smash the button. As you do, the machine begins to hum and glow, and a beam of light shoots up towards the ceiling, which also begins to sort of almost become translucent, and you see the chamber above, and the mind flayer has just been sort of sat right on the center area. Kundarashtra is not to be seen, but you see her coming downstairs again, even as this is happening. The body of the mind flayer slumps over. The light then recedes back into the machine, and there is a sort of glowing within the seat of it where the Warforged is that begins to spread through the body. Then the light in the eyes of the Warforged also begins to glow, and its fingers begin to flex, and then the machine sort of powers back down again.
Well, I think that answers that question.
Yes. Now let's see how it behaves.
Hey, Merlina, can you shrink the body a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. And when no one's looking, I'm packing it into my bag of holdings.
Wait, but no, which one?
The dead one.
Oh, but that's upstairs.
Oh, right. I forgot. I'll be right back. I need to use the toilet.
Oh, yes, it's just up the stairs and on the right.
Thank you. I'll find my way.
Oh no, it's up the stairs. You mean on the floor above this machine? So if someone is going to the toilet.
Once, never again. Yeah, so
I can go with you. I'm gonna reduce that body.
oh, okay. So you two sort of find your way up to the chamber, and yeah, it's a dimly lit room, and the body of the mind flayer is just slumped there on the ground.
Later, I want to go to a geriatric home and touch a bunch of people.
That sounds very wrong.
That'll get us some Twitch subscribers. No problem.
Finger of death is on me.
That would definitely be a Twitch
Dr. Mrs. Kevorkian.
Hey, I say what I say. What you guys think is entirely on you.
Yeah, of course. Lovely.
Okay, so as you guys, so you reduce the mind flayer corpse in size and put it into the bag of holding.
Next door.
I will add this to my notes in Philophus. I will say 1 mind flayer corpse in bag of holding. Okay.
I'm collecting them.
It's a weird mechanic, this whole. I mean, the putting it in is fine. You just reduce it and Philophus picks it up. But then when you want to take it back out again, it's already been re-enlarged inside the bag of holding. So Merlina literally has to reach her hand in, thinking of the particular thing, cast reduce through it, then pull it back out.
That would make a great doula. What do you want?
It's very strange. Regardless, while you guys are upstairs, the others in the room.
Merlina, maybe you should keep the bag of holding. It seems that you are created for the as a someone who has it on you.
No, I wouldn't want Lord Jerry to see me this way.
Oh, wait, Lord Jerry was with you, but once you, yeah, that's weird. He came down the slide as well, but he's not in the room with you guys anymore.
Oh,
But
no.
he's aware of what we are doing.
He is, but he didn't stick around for the sort of hallway conversations or anything. Like
Traitor.
You're not sure, but he's not.
Spy.
He didn't
Well,
come
he said
along with you.
he was gonna go like take care of his people preaching like in Zern's name on the lowers or something.
Yeah, it's possible that he got off the slide sooner. You don't know, but he didn't make it all the way down. Wasn't there with you.
Didn't make it all the way down.
Mhm.
Okay, fine.
Maybe his buffers super.
Could be. Regardless, the rest of you that are in the room downstairs, while Philopus and Merlina are upstairs, you all have helmets, right? Except for Merlina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Kenneth and Kundarashta do not.
Yes.
What you see is
Oh no.
I need to look something up. Sorry.
Iron Forge Mind Flare.
I mean, that was what we're afraid would happen anyway. But, I mean, hey, look, now we know for a fact that it wasn't like a conspiracy to create more of them to house Mind Flare mines or to subjugate them to Mind Flares. It was just one guy and his weird passion.
Okay. Sorry, this just needs a passive perception.
Maybe we can do to them what they did to Gwyn and Nina, right? Put
I
the
don't remember
collars
what they
around
did to
them.
Gwyn and Nine if it's been years.
Years.
Put the collars around them and dominate them like Randall Thor.
Again, after your previous comment.
Okay. Sindrine is the only one that notices, but she says it through the earpiece. There was just a moment where Kenneth and Kundarashta went sort of slack-faced at the same time as the Warforged sat up and looked directly at them. They're fine, but there was something.
But shouldn't the Warforged not remember that it's a mind flare? Game Master.
That's not how you do it.
Oh, okay. I want to come up to this Warforged and see whether
Well, you're not. You can come back down. It's fine.
Okay.
And even in that moment, you're watching. After she says this, you're watching the Warforged, and it looks at each of you in turn, and it says, "Why are you afraid of me?"
No. We're afraid for you. Are you?
Oh, it's working now. Skype froze
Right.
for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, the Warforged looked around the room and asked, sort of, "Why are you afraid of me?" And Merlina says,
We're not afraid of you. We're afraid for you. Do you remember what happened?
"No, but I can see in their thoughts anyway that I was something else before." As it talks, it sort of gets off the chair and it sort of levitates a little bit off the floor even and just floats, looking down at itself as it does so and says, "Huh."
You have been individualized, my dear. You were part of a collective, and now you get to have your free will and to be yourself.
What am I?
Well,
Let's
that's
get.
up to you to decide, really.
Yeah, you can name yourself.
Yeah. What would you like to be?
It's hard because their faces don't always move. Like they have little eyebrow things built in and stuff, but not like cheeks or quirks of the mouth like you can see. But it still sort of cocks its head to one side and looks over at Decana and says, "Maybe I can be Lady Tinker.
Hey, why not?
Look, we can call you Barbara for all I care.
Santa Barbara. Santa from the front and Barbara from the back.
No, I do not like that.
Why did you ask us then?
All right.
I think Lady Tinker sounds wonderful. It sounds wonderful. It suits you very much.
Not the same, Barbara.
As a
Yeah.
title. Something to more
The face.
Michael?
more pressing.
Are you hungry?
Yeah, I was about to ask if you have any urges.
No. No. No, I'm not. I could be of service. Can I help?
I think you definitely can. In fact, the collective that your previous body was dominated by until you lost your mind in it is attacking the city that we're in. If you can provide us assistance in fighting them off and saving the city, I think that will put you a long way into becoming the new Lady Tinker.
Well, what my friend here is trying to say is that maybe you could give the gift of free will to more of those in your collective so that they can finally be themselves and not under the compulsion of a great overmind.
All right, make a persuasion check.
19. No, 20.
Plus
23.
23.
Yeah.
Wow.
plus 10, 27.
27. 23. Okay.
I almost looked at perception, which is +1, but I'm like, no, just 1 down. Plus 10, yes.
Yeah, me too.
She lowers back down to the floor and says, all right. This seems to be a purpose, which I can get behind.
Music.
Yeah.
As great as anyone has ever had.
The at the same time, she sort of looks up and not towards the straight staircase, but towards the balcony, which you guys had originally descended through, and says, there are some coming this way already.
Oh.
And she points that way. And even as you see this, you realize you're not anymore hearing her talk. You're hearing her thoughts in your heads.
Okay, how many bodies do we have, guys? How many Warforged can we make?
Decaneth says, well, there's it does take a while to make them. In the closet here there are 6 more. So have 7 total if we can find.
I look at Lady Tinker and I say, are there more than 7 coming?
They all seem like one.
Yes, because they're under the same compulsion, but if you try to individuate them, how many are there?
I think we're about to see anyway, and it's best to just start making more Warforged to boost our numbers while we hold them off.
But
we're using them to make the Warforged.
But who are you making Warforged from?
Yeah, we.
Oh, I thought, didn't he have like bodies prepared?
No, he has.
Oh, right.
He has blank.
Yeah, we need
Warforged.
Oh, right. Oh, you mean,
Oh.
okay, no, I see. We should start making them out of the Mind Flayers, clearly.
Sure, but you're not sure how many are coming or how.
And also, we need to protect those guys that easily get compulsed because they don't have helmets.
At me.
Oh, so if I massively suggest to them that they want to do what I tell them to do, will the Mind Flayers be able to override that? Or will they follow my suggestion?
It's a good question, actually.
Who?
Denny, Kenneth, the other guys.
So what takes precedence, Mind Flayer control or massively suggested things?
I mean, so make Arcana checks if you're interested in this.
Not me.
All right, I'll make Arcana check too. Not me either.
Wait.
I mean,
Arca-
it's a 5 + 5, 10. I have
29.
yeah. Oh,
What?
Lafus, you're so knowledgeable.
And the rolls today are just fire. Like 18 is the lowest I rolled today.
Yeah.
I haven't rolled anything higher than 17.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, Akko and Philopus, you both kind of can consult with each other over it in particular as well.
The
And
two masters of deep lore.
sure, the idea is that the mind flayers themselves don't have psychic control. They can do things like detect thoughts, and they can attack with psychic energy, but they don't take over people's brains themselves. That's the domain of the elder brains, which are not mobile at all. And even Dern, you're not sure about, but what has previously taken them was a form of madness, not direct mind control. So either it's the elder brains that are doing the mind control specifically in the moment, which is what Sindrine, like her leaping off the cliff, that was the elder brain. The mind flayers themselves don't have that ability. They know, you two have recognized.
One more question. What if we
My
now
computer
use?
sounds like it's about to explode. 1 second.
What if we now use talk to dead on that mind flayer body?
But the soul is gone.
The soul is still alive. So yeah, what will happen?
We're textbooks and science and
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Decanus is excitedly third flick.
That's a very good question. I mean, if the soul is not there, will these sorts of intense spells and necromancy have any effect whatsoever?
Did someone say necromancy?
I don't know.
If only we had someone who could perform such a spell.
In this case, it's a religion check if anyone wants to see if they can surmise.
My time has come.
1.
18. Okay.
17 plus 5. I thought that was going to be another +10. No, 22.
21.
1.
What are we doing?
Religion.
What?
To see if you can understand what would happen to the mind flayer's body without a soul if you tried to speak with dead.
27.
27?
Mm-hmm.
Akko,
Nice, Akko.
Akko, you are completely clear that those kind of spells are not attached to the soul at all. In fact, very specifically, it's not about that. It is the almost
Body's
muscle
memory.
memory of the body and what it experienced.
Well, brain is sort of a sort of muscle, so makes sense.
Yeah, it makes those kind of conversations harder because they're not able to learn new things. They only know what they knew and only react in ways that they would react, which is to say barely at all, because a lot of reaction is about learning something new. So
Okay.
Kenneth looks sad about this, actually.
So, when I thought it would be something extraordinary, like maybe you'd cast it and she would start to actually talk in the Warforged body or something like that. But no, it's different.
No, but it is extraordinary in its own regard. You technically could gain information without getting the soul to compromise itself.
Yes, but only the soul is somewhere else, which is to say dead.
Which is to say it usually is.
Well, yes.
Sidrian says,
So are we waiting around?
I can't do her voice anymore. I'm doing too many
of these voices. Waiting around, or are we going to actively pursue the mind flayers? What are we doing, and how are we ensuring that we don't destroy them completely while capturing them so their souls remained intact?
Is there any kind of trap that we can set, guys, in order for them to come in here and for us to kind of just whoosh them up over the machine?
Perhaps.
I mean, can we freeze them or knock them out somehow is the question.
I mean, I could still use time stop if we created some kind of netting or something like that. Do we have anything like that here?
I'm thinking of my spells.
I mean, we can have Coco bonk them on the head. She does that.
I have one spell I could do, which would allow me for up to an hour, or I could cast it on anyone actually. It would essentially let whoever I give this to climb on walls and ceilings and such.
Yeah, that could be helpful. Somebody strong.
Well, but as a bait, let's say I were to cast it, I could go walk up onto the ceiling and say, "Oh, look here I am! Come catch me, mind flayers!" And they might float over towards me. And
Yeah, but they don't need to catch you. They can just dominate your brain. You know what I mean? Well, I suppose if you wore your helmet.
but also I mean, they won't have an elder brain with them. They won't be able to dominate me.
They won't have an elder. So you mean they wouldn't be under the influence of an elder brain?
They'd be under
No, they would be, but they wouldn't be able to dominate one of us or all of us.
No, yeah. Kundarasha says no. What she is saying is the elder brains cannot move around, so they are miles away in their own secret chambers.
I just didn't realize it weakened their influence.
Their influence is on their hive. They are all of one mind, so these are their worker bees that are performing actions.
But couldn't they just still tell them to do things?
Don't make him rethink
But
it.
they cannot control us themselves. Do you see? You do not have the ability
I got
to...
it. I got it. I did. I got it.
So am I acting as bait on the ceiling?
Okay, well, you can act as bait, but we'll stay nearby in order to be able to protect you. We'll just hide.
What?
And those of you who don't have helmets, get away so they can't read your brains and figure out that we're hiding nearby.
Lady Tinker says, yes, this would be wise. I can sense most of the things that you are thinking at all times, and some of them are quite distressing to me.
Merlina.
Right, come on. Why Merlina?
You're the one that
All I have to do is sing in my head. I just keep repeating the song that won us the championship. Is that very distressing, Lady Tinker?
The music is interesting.
Yeah, thank you. And I sing much better in my head. So do they move? Do they leave at all?
Kundarashta says, we will go up above and watch from the gallery windows. Perhaps you should join us, Lady Marina, so that you are not...
Yeah, sure. I'll come up with you.
So the three of you head up there. The Warforged says, I will stay here. I can speak their language. That might come in useful. And she sort of levitates herself up to the towards the ceiling as well.
Okay.
Wait, so one of them's going to distract them, we all attack them?
Sindrine's going to distract them, and in the meantime, she'll try, as she lures somebody in, we need somebody to press the lever, don't we?
Me.
Valadrin says, it's more than that. We need a quick body in, pull the lever as soon as it's unconscious. Well, it doesn't have to be unconscious, does it?
No.
Oh, good.
No.
That makes things easier. But still, there has to be a rapid-fire assembly line of...
Well, we're counting on you, Helmet, to do that.
What?
We're counting on you guys to do that because you have the helmets. So go for it.
Can you
Right.
take my helmet?
Akko, you can do it.
We believe in you. It all rests on your shoulders.
You can do it if you want help.
Kaelin and Valadrin get all the Warforged bodies over and onto the floor nearby the machine. So surrounding the machine there are all of these bodies. Akko, your job will be to press this button when we're ready.
Just smash it as hard as you can repeatedly.
What happens if I break it?
Just don't hit Sindrine.
Yeah.
Hide among the Warforged bodies so they can't see you.
Can we major illusion or even illusion would be
By
enough.
the way, before the fighting starts, Coco, could you cast some sort of healing spell on me? I'm still, like, wounded. It's scabbed over, but it still hurts. Coco.
She's looking. She's checking her spells.
Apparently I have no spells.
You have no spells?
I'm spelling it wrong, I think.
You must be.
You can choose either of your cure wounds.
How much HP do you have? I don't want to overheal.
That's metagaming. Just make a
I don't want to
decision.
overheal now.
Well, you can say.
I feel like I'm at about 2/3
Of what?
of my maximum unhealthiness.
Okay, I guess second level.
Keep in
Well-
mind that 1/3 of my total health pool is like 1/10 of yours. So
Hmm.
To
You
be
can cast
super
spell off.
honest, like my wife is a physiotherapist, and she always asks to rate the pain in 1 to 10 ratio. So, well, it does make sense to.
Sure. That's
Yeah.
true.
7.
7 points. Yes? 7 points of healing for you, Moish.
okay.
Akko reaches out and a wave of refreshing magic carries through you.
I
Close
still have a black eye, but it's better than nothing.
Sure. Sindrine says really quickly, before we start this,
Thank you, Coco, by the way.
is there anyone else that might want to do it besides me? If I can make myself look like a mind flayer, and she alters herself to look like a mind flayer.
Will they not know by scouring your mind?
Valadrin can.
Well, Valadrin might need to heft the bodies. They're quite heavy, and between Kaelin and Valadrin, yes, but
What do you want us to do?
Hide.
well,
Be inconspicuous.
No, she wants us to
how are we going to convince them to approach and attack?
Well, Sindrine, you're luring them to the ceiling.
Right, but am I going to be enough of a lure?
Why not? Look at you. You're great.
Oh, so I don't need to be a mind flayer?
No.
She's saying this with these little tentacle things floating in the air.
Okay, so you can pretend to be chasing me and ask them for backup.
No.
Yeah, but she would have to use words. They can tell she's not one of theirs.
Mhm.
What if Miss Tinker?
What if we use the body of the previous mind flayer? So, like, one of us would carry it around nonchalantly.
Puppeted,
Yeah. No.
like a marionette.
Yeah, we need some strings.
I have rope.
Oh.
The plan.
I can already see like a dead body. Like,
No, it's distasteful to Lady Tinker.
Yeah, it probably would be. Maybe, look, I could try to do a major image if you think that will help. I could do a major image of Jern,
Do you know what Dern looks like?
how I imagine Jern. We're about to find
Lady
out what
Tinker
Jern
is
looks like.
I feel Like Dern is about to find out that Dern looks like...
She doesn't look like a mind flayer.
What does she look like?
She looks like a warforged. Sort of metal or robotic body, you know.
Just
Joe.
the fact that
Can like you cast an illusion on top of Lady Tinker and then she communicates to the
Yeah, that's a great idea. Why not?
to them?
What kind of illusion should I cast on her?
You can make her look like a mind flayer.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Well, when it's time, because they're not here yet.
Okay.
But Lady Tinker at this stage says, "Oh, but they are nearly here."
All right, guys, into positions. Major image.
Big red button.
All right. So Merlina, you head up, and so you're behind a glass wall, sort of watching through the chamber, but it's enough for you can see and cast your illusion.
Yes.
Through that same. Again, this chamber is large and bowl-like. There's the viewing along one side, and then there's that almost balcony that sort of juts out over the viewing platform, and the archway behind it where you originally had entered from after the sort of pressure plate hallway. A number of mind flayers come floating through there. There are 8 of them in total that coast gliding through into the space. You don't see anyone except for the mind flayers. I'm not sure. You said you were expecting Dern. Nothing like that currently. But as they enter, they see in front of them this mind flayer that is floating in the space above the machine. You hear nothing in your own minds, but Lady Tinker sort of. You can't see Lady Tinker. She's up there in the space. At which stage they begin to glide over towards the space. You need to make insight checks. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, average of those. Okay, so one of them sort of hesitates momentarily as it's drifting. Those of you that are hidden inside the room, so Moish and Akko, Valadrin, Kalen, and Philofus, make stealth checks. Yeah, Akko would have cast Pass Without a Trace, so plus 10.
A 1.
No, I rolled a natural 1, but I'm gonna...
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Same here. Same.
How did we both fail so
I don't
spectacularly?
know.
Wait,
I don't
but we are about to use a luck point, but let's decide what actually happened in setting for us both to roll a natural 1.
We wanted to hide and we basically hit each other, you know.
We bumped foreheads as we dived for cover to the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, we quickly recover though, and we try again. Alright, 16 plus 10 plus 5, 31.
Okay.
Plus 10? It's plus 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
28.
Okay, Sindrine is 26 and Valadrin is 31.
I can't use the second slot of luck points. I don't know why.
And Kalen is 21. Still, all of you remain reasonably well hidden as the mind flayers drift towards it. There's this moment where they begin to enter towards the illusion, but Merlina, you're able to sort of pull it backwards from them, and just at the edge there is this, you see her floating hand sort of slip out of the space where the illusion is briefly, and you adjust it really quickly. But there is that she's right up to the edge because they're nearing the center above the machine.
Okay.
But in that moment, they reach the space directly above the machine. What are you doing?
Go for it, guys.
What are you doing?
Are we done?
They're above the machine.
I did that.
What?
I pressed the button.
You press the button.
You
The
smash the button.
Smash the button.
Smash that like button.
OMG. Yeah, the machine powers up again, and they all sort of look downwards towards it as the beam again shoots up and hits directly through the one that's in the lead. It wavers in place for a minute, and then the body sort of just collapses to the ground, knocking into the machine and bouncing off it onto the floor. There's the power takes a few seconds to pull into place, which means we need to roll initiative.
What didn't work?
It worked on one.
We one-shotted. You one-shotted Coco.
You got one, but there's still 7 that are floating above, and it takes a little bit of time. It takes maybe 2 rounds for it to finish imbuing, and then Viladrin and Kaelan have to pull it off and put the next one on and then fire it again. So given the hour that it is, though, don't actually roll initiative because I'll have to leave it open for a week.
Where do you supposed to level up, by the way?
You haven't slept. You don't get to level up until you sleep. You have to survive all of the battles.
And we don't have slots.
I used all of my luck points on the
I
most
know.
mundane things.
I know. I was wondering why you were using your luck points. I was like, yeah, we're close to bedtime yet. But this is the game. We will find out next time what happens in a crazy floating mind flayer battle.
I was about to say, I survived 11 levels without a single luck point. Then I'm like, wait a second. No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. In fairness, though, you only fell unconscious once, right?
No, 3 times.
Okay. Well, there was only one shot, which was the Banshee. Which was like, what's that sound? Moish goes, bleh. That was fun. Okay, well, thanks for playing, and
Thanks, friend.
Thanks, everyone.
As tense as this whole in-game situation is, this was one of the funniest sessions. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
no thanks to Merlina's efforts.
that's pretty fun.